Hi everyone. In this Pecha Kucha, I'm going to be talking about ghost cities, focusing on their causes and attempts by local governments to bring them back to life. Ghost cities are largely unoccupied urban areas despite their buildings and infrastructure. They differ from the traditional ghost towns like Chernobyl or Alexandria that enjoyed a period of vitality before being abandoned. Core cities never see life. Even though they are now common all around the world, they were first brought into world consciousness in 2009 by a report published in Al Jazeera about China. In China, investment in property and construction took primacy at the peak of its economic growth. Building apartments before people demand for them has worked in the past in China, most notably in Pudong. But with so many cities competing to build formulaic housing projects and industrial parks, the model may have run its course. Why then does the government continue to support such projects? As of 2015, 40% of the revenue that local governments in China made was from land sales. The party incentivizes construction on newly acquired urban land by using local GDP growth as an indicator of good governance. Developers acquired new plots of land from the government and were mandated to construct something more or less immediately. This created a quick buck mentality to build without the necessary demand. A prime example of such construction is the new South China Mall, the largest mall in the world, left 99% vacant in the first few years of its opening in 2009. There are various reasons that even well designed cities may face the issue of being left deserted or very sparsely inhabited. These reasons may be demand side, in that consumers do not want to move in due to specific issues like pricing or lack of relevant public services, or even supply side if the property builders don't wish to sell. Let's take a look at some of these. Many a time, property developers participate in speculation when they expect a deflation in prices. This occurred in Kangbashi district in Ordos city after the local property market experienced a crash in 2011. The reason why some apartments remain unsold there isn't because there were no buyers, but because the developers were simply holding on to them in hopes that prices will rise in the future. Of the property that was on sale in Kangbashi, approximately 80 to 90% of it had been purchased. However, most of the owned houses remained unoccupied, lending to the eerie deserted feeling in the city. This may be because investment options in China are severely limited. Most of the buyers bought houses not to live in them, but to give them to the children when they get married, to retire, or to hold on to as long-term investments. Moving from China to other parts of the world, one such settlement in Spain is Cesena, dubbed the Manhattan of Madrid for its towering apartments in proximity to the capital. Of the 13,000 homes due to be built, only 5,100 were completed, most of which are now uninhabited. With Spain's housing market crash and a 23% unemployment rate, there are simply no buyers. The city of Quilamba, spanning 5,000 hectares in Angola, is another example. Being constructed by Chinese firms, it was believed to be one of the largest satellite cities projects on the continent. In 2012, 2 months before the official construction of the project, it was labeled as a ghost city by local and international media. The president of Quilamba described it as the city with a Chinese face and an Angolan body, and this may precisely be the reason for its failure. Angolan planners have faced difficulties in getting the Chinese to accommodate local context. With the impact of a vertical lifestyle yet to be experienced, the area-specific suitability of the project in its design is questionable. There also exist issues regarding the convoluted selling process and the accessibility of housing units. In Quilamba, the prices of apartments range from $70,000 to $1.8 million for a 4-bedroom apartment, only accessible to a small, if growing, middle class, excluding the vast majority of the population. There are also very limited provisions for public services in this town. Poor integration with surrounding urban areas is one of them. Apart from the poor service delivery in the city, plans for transport are said to be in the pipeline. Kilamba's inhabitants still have to commute to their jobs to the city center using private taxis. Lack of transport and connectivity is also a big part of the reason that led to low inhabitancy in the city of Songdo, South Korea. Songdo represents the stupefying smart city in its architectural aspect. Massive, clean, efficient housing blocks with heat, security, and other urban services, all controlled centrally. Even with all such facilities, less than half of its population capacity has been filled. Less than 20% of its commercial space has been occupied. Songdo's lack of connectivity to already populated cities has become an impediment in its success. It takes no less than 3 hours to reach most of the big urban centers in the country, including the capital city. While these are only a handful of multitude reasons why ghost cities exist, note that they are unique and context specific. Cities are not mere physical spaces. The failure of planning lies in not accounting for the socio-economic profile of the expected inhabitants, and it is up to the local governments to tackle this problem innovatively. Local governments are now coming up with plans and incentives to attract migration into these cities. The first group of people who made the move to Kangbashi were the employees of the government offices and state-owned enterprises that were moved in by fiat. Relocation packages included significantly discounted housing, tax breaks, and free public transport and other utilities. The government also moved in the region's best middle school to Kangbashi, which meant that if parents wanted their kids to get the best education possible, they had to follow along. Many retail and food and beverage businesses, including McDonald's and Subway, also moved into the city to take advantage of the free rent and tax breaks that the local government was offering. With an excess of unsold apartments nearing 70,000 in number, the city government is trying a new program of housing exchange certificates. This new program consists of certificates that can be redeemed for housing being given as compensation for people who had their property requisitioned. Although Housing Authority data shows that real estate sales were up by 132% per year since the launch of this program. In the case of Songdo, convincing businesses to move their headquarters to a half-empty city was a tough sell. Convincing residents from big urban centers to move away from their friends and family to a place that has few businesses was equally difficult. The government then strategically moved campuses of foreign universities like George Mason, which converted a part of it into a university town, hence attracting businesses and residents. The propping up of coast cities points towards an urban development problem pertaining to unforeseen errors in planning a vibrant, populated, smart, or even livable city. City governments are hence tackling the issue with innovative solutions like issuing certificates and incentives or even just moving schools and university campuses. Hopefully, lessons are learned by planners who will now internalize these problems in their next city plans. Thank you.